Hello everyone and welcome to the Atelier Nekozuki podcast. My name is Katie and today is Wednesday, June 5th, 2019, and today's episode number is 78, which I remember because I just looked it up. Although apparently it was not stuck as firmly as I thought. Welcome to any new viewers and welcome back to any returning viewers. Thanks so much for joining me anew or again. I really appreciate it. Obviously last week's episode was a little bit of a atypical episode. But I don't know, I hope it was kind of fun at least. I hadn't realized when I had wine with dinner that I was going to get quite so tipsy, but I think I communicated what I needed to without going too extreme either direction. So thanks to everyone who also watched that episode. We are back on schedule, at least for the next little bit, especially in this mad dash. I've got a show on Friday in Calgary, Inglewood Night Market. It is from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. And it is down in Inglewood. The details are actually easiest to find on their website, inglewoodnightmarket.ca. And I will be in a trunk space, which is just off of 10th Ave and on 11th Street. So yeah, so like come down and see me, and then you can go visit Stash, which is another knitting store in the city, and just make a good night of it. So there's that this weekend, and then actually in less than 2 weeks I'll be heading to TNNA and guesting with Ancient Arts Yarns. So I've got to get my butt in gear because I've had a new idea percolating to be able to actually do a wholesale item, like for retailing, and I need to actually get it put together. It's all in my head and it works in my head, but sometimes that doesn't always translate into fabric, and it doesn't translate into fabric easily. And granted, not all of my sewing has to be easy. But with under 2 weeks, and I still have a bunch of show prep actually for Friday. And then also on top of that, like it's 2 weeks and I've got to do a bunch of stuff in between as well. So anyway, I'll go into a little bit more detail about that towards the end. With some more rambling about chatter and everything like that. I do have a couple items to preview for you guys this week, which is super exciting. They're what I hinted at last week when I was showing the kind of like messenger clutches. I have another set of purses to actually show you this week, so I'm super excited for that. We might have a kitty join us here in a moment if I get him to come up. Oh, and thanks to everyone who did come and visit me at Edmonton Cat Fest. It was fantastic. It was super busy. Sorry none of my kitties were able to be there, but with it just being me, it's kind of hard to like give them the attention that they need, considering that like I can hardly get away from the booth for a washroom break or anything like that. But that was a super fantastic event. Yeah, look at that face. He's so pleased right now. Not really. He's not really a lap cat as it is, so that's why he's kind of like, Mom, stop. And Dahlia just walked into the room, so obviously his attention needs to go there. But yeah, Edmonton Cat Fest was fantastic. I had a lot of fun. It was a really enthusiastic group of people, which is always awesome. So as long as it keeps going, I think I'll be back up next year as well, as long as it fits in the schedule, and yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. So let's actually get into the knitting. So I did bring show knitting this time. I don't normally knit at shows anymore, but this seemed appropriate since like it wasn't in the main audience that I've marketed my bags towards. Now realistically, you can use my bags for anything you'd like. So like especially these like box bag shapes are fantastic for things such as makeup. You can use them as lunch bags because they are machine washable. If anything spills on them, you can wash them, dry them, everything like that. I do suggest air drying with them just because then it doesn't like shrink more. I do pre-shrink all my fabrics, but just to avoid that potential consequence. Also, if you air dry them, you can reshape them a little bit better. But anyway, you can use them for pretty much anything you can think of. My aunt-in-law uses them to like organize clothing when she travels. My niece uses it as a makeup bag, so yeah, anything you would like, really. But obviously the main market that I'm going for is knitters, and so I was standing there knitting. So I actually got quite a bit done. I'm knitting on mud punch self-striping, and I am sorry, Chantel, I totally did not look up the name of this. I know it might be Jumble Math, but I'm loving it. I love Chantel's dye work. She's a dyer out of BC. I typically see her at Knit City, so that's super exciting. And I'm trying to knit through my stash of her yarn so that I can actually purchase more in October. I really like these speckled self-striping stripes. So nice crisp lines, no transition, which I absolutely love about them. I also love the pink and green in these colors. Because those are actually my wedding colors. We're coming up on 5 years, so that's exciting, and it reminds me of that. And yeah, this speckle stripe is something else. So I'm doing these one at a time because it is a gumball ball that she winds them into when you see her at shows. And the words have escaped me. Typical sock, 64 stitches. Vanilla, because it's self-striping, it's interesting enough, and especially for a show, it's just around and around and around and around, which is exactly what I need. US 1 2.25 millimeter needles. I'm doing it magic loop and Chiaogu red lace, I believe is what they call these, because they don't have the bend in the shaft. So yeah, so I'm actually, I think, yeah, this is where the afterthought heel will be placed actually when I get to the afterthought heel. I had mentioned that I might do the new heel that I got sent as a gift on Ravelry, but I did look further into that, and it's not going to work with these socks. I will do it with a variegated or something like that. I've got a couple things that I've got caked up from previous projects that are leftovers that I should probably use up, so I think that might be on the agenda later this summer. So yeah, half a sock. It's a pretty awesome amount of knitting time. Then the other sock that I actually did get work on, and that I'm in the middle of a row, of course, because I'm a professional podcaster, is I am working on the Fine and Dandy socks by Jessica Gore. This is a snow dyed sock blank by Yuriko Oki out of Vancouver. She is a dyer, and I think she weaves as well, but she is definitely a dyer, obviously, with Fiber Art Studio on Granville Island. And I typically also see Yuriko at Knit City. That's how we met. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying it. It's coming up really nice. So you can definitely see the pattern when it's closer, obviously, but realistically it does add a little bit of pizzazz to a somewhat busy yarn without being overwhelming to yarn, and the yarn isn't overwhelming it either. I am at the point where I need to start, this is actually going to be a toe up, heel flap, and gusset. So I'm at the point where I will start the gusset. So that's exciting. These are knitting up extremely fast, to be honest, and I'm quite surprised. Both that and the Mud Punch sock are actually being held in a small box bag. So these bags are extremely versatile for the number of projects and yarn that you can hold in them. They always surprise me with how much they actually hold. It's absolutely insane. So, and the socks, normal, cast on and needle size, it is US 1 2.25 millimeter needle, and they are being knit in 64 stitch as well, which I believe on the sock pattern is size 2. Although realistically the pattern is actually super adjustable for your foot, so if you've got if you typically wear a 72 stitch foot, you could definitely upsize it so that you would be able to knit the pattern as well. And then I have a faux. I actually have a very large faux, so I'm super excited about that. Faux being finished object. I am done the Seraphim. So this gorgeous, super long sweater vest that I cast on in October of 2017 is done, guys. So it does need a block. As you can see, the ends are pulling up from the like neckband and front band, and it's curling, so I definitely need to block it, but that'll make it like, it'll stretch it out to match and then just kind of make it lay flat as well, I hope. Armholes have a super simple just finish on them, and it fits really well. I did notice that it does need to be blocked also through like the bust area. It is warbling a bit right here, which is probably from my pickup. Yeah, you can definitely see that. So it needs to be blocked a little bit and just kind of massaged through there so that it will sit nicely. But yeah, I'm pleased. It's done. I'm super happy to have it done. I've been wanting this vest. The knitting, I love the pattern, I love the yarn, but the knitting took longer than I had anticipated. Granted, I didn't give it as much attention as I should have, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, the texture, it looks really good. I understand why it's there, but it definitely added a layer of work where I was just ready to be done. But yeah, I'm super excited about this. I wanted to get it finished for TNNA so that I could wear it in the booth, because I will be guesting with Ancient Arts Yarns. This is Ancient Arts Yarns, and I did it. So now I gotta weave in ends and block it. I knit the third size. I have a 42-inch bust, typically. And the words again have escaped me. And so I think I knit the 44 size, so there's a little bit of ease. Realistically, it's not a very big problem because it is an open front vest. So you'll end up with quite a bit of like room to play on this, simply because it is open bust. You can basically do whatever size you need. Just pay attention to how wide it will be across your chest, and then you can play with that. Merino, this is Ancient Arts Yarns Merino DK, which is 100% superwash merino. The gray is Iron Horse, and the pinky variegated, not super variegated, but slightly variegated, is Raspberry Gelato. So yeah, I absolutely love it. I'll get the ends woven in and blocked, and then I will have it for Cleveland, because I know Cleveland is going to be ridiculously hot probably, but we'll be in air conditioning, and this doesn't have sleeves. So now I just gotta figure out what I'm going to wear under it, because obviously I should probably put something under it, or else you'll get a show none of us desires. All right, and then yeah, it's into chatter. So last weekend was Edmonton Catfest. I drove up on Friday after finishing up the purses, obviously, and then did sorry, the word that popped into my head was perishable, but I don't sell food. The stuff people aren't going to steal is what I set up on Friday night. It is a secure location, but there is a lot of foot traffic through it still because it's a university. And then Saturday morning we had set up for non-product setup. There we go. It is still a P word. Was Friday night, and then product setup was Saturday morning. I definitely underestimated the amount of time that I needed to set up. I was still ready in time, but it was a bit more of a push. I had left it a little bit later than I normally do to show up for setup. I don't think I showed up until about 8, and like it was open to start signing up at 7:15, and I should have been there right at 7:15, but I slept and did my makeup instead. I had breakfast, so there's always that too. Yeah, it was fantastic, really good, enthusiastic crowd. I love it. It was busy all the way through until about 4:30, which for a lot of shows that are 10 to 5, excuse me, doesn't end up happening. I think they did a really good job with their programming to ensure that people did kind of stick around a little bit longer or showed up for stuff later. I was right in front of the presentation stage, which was actually kind of cool. It made it a little bit difficult to communicate with some folks as they were presenting, obviously, but it was neat because then I was able to actually see the presentations as well instead of being outside of that like sphere of influence, I guess. So that was fun. They had some celebrity cats. Suki Cat, who is in Edmonton itself. She's an adventure Bengal. She goes around and adventures with her humans. And then Great Grams of Gary, who is a fluff ball out of Canmore, and he's super cute. So if you need some cute Instagram accounts to follow, definitely go check them out. And then what else ended up happening? Oh my goodness, guys. I'm getting also text messages, so they're a little bit distracting. Dallas was home for a couple of days, chatted about that. Now he's on a actual 2-week stretch. So that does leave me lots of time to actually develop product, which is kind of nice, but it is a really long time for him to be away from home. We're not even a week in yet. It's felt like it's been like 10 days. And then what else ended up happening? Oh, I went and I ran. Well, okay, first off, I finished a 30-day challenge at my spin and yoga studio, or a 30 class challenge. So it was 30 classes in May. I finished. Yay! I was so happy with that. And then I went and I ran a 10K on Sunday, which almost ended in disaster. I thought I was supposed to start at 10:30 in the morning, but as per usual, I went in and I checked the information the night before because that's never a bad plan. And it turned out that the race actually started at 8 a.m. So I had been planning to be there by 8, but of course I still had to pick up my race package and like pins and all of that. So I ended up having to get up a little bit earlier than I had anticipated, but it was all good. It all happened. I got there on time. I had aimed for an hour and a half 10K. I actually got in training. I was projecting, however, that I should get 115 to 120, and I ended up right in the smack in the middle of that. I got 117.10, so I'm super happy with that. I did do something to my Achilles. I think it's mostly because I hadn't really run anything beyond, like regularly at least, beyond about 6.5 kilometers. I had run a 7-kilometer run like 3 weeks ago, but I hadn't had a chance to really build my body up to 10K. My cardio was good, but my body definitely was at its limits for this run. So I did not run the whole thing. I ended up walking bits and everything like that, but I still finished in the time that I had anticipated, and that's, to me, is what really matters. But yeah, definitely my Achilles is sore. Otherwise, I'm doing pretty good. I'm surprised. I think the spin and the yoga really helped with that because my body is used to exercise. And also that my running is outside generally, so at least it was used to like the harder like pathways. Excuse me. And I think, yeah, realistically, it's just a repetitive strain injury in the tendon. So I'm resting for a few days. I'm going to still continue to like spin and yoga, modifying the yoga where I need to take into account that the ankle is sore, just so I don't damage it more, especially given how the experience that I've had with the repetitive stress, like tendinitis-y thing in the shoulder, which is from knitting, of course. I know that rest is just probably what it needs. So yeah, I'll take a little bit easier with the impact sports, and maybe I'll go swimming instead because I haven't gone swimming for a while. Getting the new piercing last summer obviously put a dent in being able to swim. They don't like you going in a pool for about 3 to 4 months, and by that point it was winter and cold, and I should not mind going swimming in the winter, but it's just kind of that mental barrier then. Same as running. I don't want to run outside in the cold. I don't want to like go into the pool and then get wet hair and then go out into the cold either. But for now, it's probably the best option, simply because then it's not an impact sport and it won't be hard on the joint and the tendons. So what else has there been? There was something else very witty that I was going to say, and now I've forgotten it. Yeah, we're heading into basically summer. It's actually finally nice. I did plant everything in the garden. I think I mentioned that I had started sweet peas before that last snowfall and planted them because I thought it was fine, and actually it was. I have quite a few sweet peas actually coming up. It looks like it killed off the morning glories and the moonflowers, but that's okay. I replanted them. And then I just scattered a bunch of sweet pea seeds because realistically I just want it chock full as much as possible, and then I can weed out the weaker plants as well. But I'm really happy that it's also working where it is because I was worried that it wouldn't. So we'll see if they actually bloom and how much they grow and everything. Because they're not a food supply, it's realistically not that big a deal. If they fail this year, I'll figure something out next year if that ends up happening. And then I did some more perennial planting. I got some clematis and honeysuckle, and I've planted them against our pergola, actually over here. I'm facing our deck right now. So I'm hoping that they will survive and thrive and start growing up. So we have a little bit of a privacy screen from our neighbors. And then I did also plant some dahlia bulbs because the weather's finally turned nice and they seem to be doing decent at least. And then I kind of put a few of the vines in the back there as well, just because I had extra seeds. I was over ambitious in my seed count this year. So they're kind of just thrown in there to see how they do. There's some morning glories and sweet peas there as well. And then some like container stuff on the deck. I was going to be doing lavender, but all the lavender that I see is not rated for our area. So I've heard that lavender is really picky anyway, and I'm hesitant. I wanted to plant it mostly for a bee garden sort of thing. That's a lot of what I've focused on this year, but I've got a lot of other plants. I've seeded some cosmos, and then I did just purchase some like hothouse snapdragons the other 2 days ago and planted them. Petunias, but they are not bee flowers, I don't think. Oh, and some catmint, or catnip at least, because obviously with the cats that will be a hit. Yeah, and then the only one that didn't survive that I would have liked to have had, but I haven't seen the seed since, it's heliotrope. It's a really pretty little flower. It's usually purple. But of course they all died out with the great snow of May, and I haven't found the seed since. So realistically not a big deal, but it does mean that I'll probably plan a little bit different for my garden next year. I'll also see kind of what survives this year and what does well, because I won't buy seedlings of sweet peas. I'll just start sweet peas. Generally they grow well enough that I don't need to start or have pre-started sweet peas. And morning glories and moonflowers you can't really do that with anyway. So that'll all be always annual. I also want annual sweet peas. I know there are perennials, but they don't smell as good, and the whole point for me for sweet peas is that they smell fantastic and their colors are really pretty. Moonflowers and morning glories, as far as I know, are always annuals in our area. And then, because most of the time what I like to do is plant perennials. I think that that's the best investment. It's also I think a little bit more sustainable in some ways. So the dahlias are all bulbs. They'll get dug up in the fall and then they get wintered in the basement, and then I'll replant them next year. So they're technically perennials, just not winter hardy perennials. The peony is a perennial, although I'm hoping that it does better next year. I've mixed in some compost and some fertilizer. And its root system has established itself extremely well. I was actually going to dig it up and move it into the middle of the bed, because I had 3 peonies, but 2 of them have died. But this one's surviving. Although now that I look at it, I think it's probably in the best spot. I think it's the best drained area, because peonies don't like soggy soil. It's also partly why I planted the dahlias with it, is because I figured that dahlias are water loving, or at least they really like water, so they'll take up more of the moisture, and then the peony will get what it needs, but not overwatered. least in my head, this is how it's all working. So we'll see. I'll send some photo, or I'll take some photos and everything like that when it gets a little bit more established. The Snapdragons that are like the started ones are having a little bit of transplant shock, so I'm gonna let everything kind of settle itself out, and then I'll get some photos of my pretty garden because that's the whole point. I have actually done a lot of reading and listening mostly this week, with 2 3-hour drive, well, 4 3-hour drives because of Edmonton Fiber Frolic as well. That's 12 hours of listening time alone. And then Desperate Sewing calls for desperate listening. But I did actually read something as well. I read and finished Zell by Donna Jo Napoli. It is a rewriting of Rapunzel. I like Donna Jo Napoli, but the last one that I read of hers was her rewriting of Beauty and the Beast, and I do think it was a stronger novel. This Zell seems a lot more disjointed. I don't know, I'm not 100% sure on it. It wasn't terrible, but it isn't something that I would outright recommend either. It is obviously, it's not quite a middle grade. I would put it as teens, kind of. There is no like overt reference to sex or anything like that. There kind of is, but there isn't. It is very much the old time Rapunzel tale. Yeah, I don't know where I'd place it. I would go with your gut on this one. If you've got kids. Obviously as an adult it's fine. I do tend to like a lot of fairy tale rewrites because I don't know, it's interesting, but I do really enjoy fairy tale rewrites, so I end up reading a lot of them. And this has been on my like to be read list for a really long time. I am on Goodreads, so I'm working through a lot of the books that I've put on my to be read list, especially this summer, because I have a new subscription for audiobooks. It's called Scribed. It's unlimited listening instead of credits. So I'm really enjoying that system because I go through a lot of books, especially in the summer. And like, I love the library system. And generally what I've been doing is I've been using it first. So if an audiobook is available through the library, I use it first, and then I use Scribed after. Because I figured that way they get the funding that they need, but the drawback to that a lot of the time is that there's only like 1, maybe 2 copies of an audiobook in the library system. So I end up having to wait. And when I kind of need a consistent stream of something, audiobooks in particular, that can be kind of difficult. So that's how I've been balancing it, because obviously if I can get it for free, I may as well, or at least like my small contribution to the library every year, because I think it's only $20 for a membership. So considering how much I read and listen, it pays for itself within the first couple months, sort of thing. But otherwise, I did listen to the final in the Elemental trilogy by Sherry Thomas. It's the Immortal Heights. I actually really enjoyed the series. This came out at a time when, it's a YA fiction, but it came out at a time when there was mostly dystopian fiction. And now this is slightly dystopian, but it's not like super, it's hard to describe. It's not super doom and gloom, I guess is the way to put it. It acknowledges that BS has happened, but it doesn't like focus on it, I guess. The other nice thing about it is that there was no love triangle, which was fantastic. Most YA seem to kind of use that as like grounds for motivations, and this one did not, and I enjoyed that immensely. Then I also listened to Plus One by Elizabeth Fama. That's what I was listening to 2 weeks ago, just prior to Edmonton Fiber Frolic, and not what I was anticipating at all. Again, a young adult, new adult book. The end has a really interesting twist. I liked the setup of it. Again, I don't know if I would actually recommend it, but it's something maybe to look into if you're interested in, like, I don't even know how to describe it. I guess contemporary young adult fiction with, it's not dystopian either. Like, this came out around the same time as the dystopian stuff, but it's not dystopian, and it's just hard to describe. So my best suggestion would actually be to go read the synopsis of it on Goodreads or like another service, or however you're getting your audio or ebooks or books, and see if it's something that would interest you. And then I listened to A Shadow Bright and Burning, which is part of the Kingdom on Fire trilogy by Jessica Cluess. Excuse me. And yes, totally dystopian. But it is like, all I can think about with this is it's a Cthulhian dystopia. So I feel like that's more the bent that it was going, was like the Lovecraftian horror kind of. I'm really enjoying it. That's the next thing I'm going to listen to, is the second book in that series, and then I'll go into the third one, obviously, afterwards. So I'm working through, basically what I'm doing is I'm just going through my to be read list on Goodreads. I'm getting rid of some stuff as well. It was getting a little bit overwhelming how much was on there. And it was more just that it's kind of like the Ravelry queue. I put a bunch of stuff on it as a, like, in the best scenario, this is what I'm going to do. But same as the Ravelry queue, my tastes change, or I'm tired of a trope, or like, I also put a lot of these books on there like 6 years ago. My life has changed a lot in 6 years, like, and growth has happened as well. And I've read a lot of other books where I've obviously read the better version of something in the genre. Honestly, a lot of it is in that dystopian trope, and I am kind of done with it myself personally. So I am going through and I'm cleaning up the list. I am going through though, and also listening or reading a lot of the books that are still interesting to me. I've still got like nearly 300 books on the list, so it's not like I'm going to run out anytime soon. I did remove a lot of the classics you have to read or should read, because I was an English major, and honestly, the classics you should read aren't necessarily always classics you should read. So they are eventually things I will go back to probably, but I don't really need to slog through Anna Karenina right now, or Love and War, or it's not Love and War, it's War and Peace. See, so it's just, I'm just want to work through that this summer, get a few things off, get a few things on that are a little bit more contemporary and happening right now, which would be good too. There's lots of new books coming out that I'm super excited about. The woman who wrote The Night Circus, Erin Morgenstern, that is one of my favorites still, is The Night Circus. I'd actually forgot what happened at the end of it. Like, I kind of had a vague idea, but I forgot what the actual conclusion was. And oh my goodness, I love it still. I'm just tearing up about it a little bit, thinking about it right now. Anyway, that author is actually going to have a new book coming out, I think this winter or early 2020. So I'm super excited for that. There's one more book in a series that I've been waiting for that's going to be coming out in 2020. The woman who wrote The Golem and the Genie, Helen Wecker, also has another book coming out actually in that series, and I'm excited about that. So like, I want to get through a little bit of the to be read so that I can add new stuff into it eventually. So that's what's been happening there. I have been actually catching up on some older anime. Not super old, but My Hero Academia. I'm about 8 episodes in right now. I understand the hype now, so I'm going to try and catch up. Dallas has actually finished the whole I think there's 62 or 63 episodes out right now, so I want to catch up with him before the new season comes. We have been watching Attack on Titan, which I think is one of the... They keep talking, or there has been some discussion recently about anime and what makes anime classic, and like, what are you going to think about in years to come? And honestly, I think Attack on Titan right now is one of the only really big ones that I could think of that's going to be like, you have to, like, this, if you want anime, this is one of the ones you have to watch. But I don't know, we'll find out in a few years, because like previously it was like, yeah, Sailor Moon was definitive to the magical girls genre. Gundam was the mecha, which is giant robots, generally piloted by a human person. There was Pokemon, which honestly is definitive for a lot of the Journey ones. And like most of the ones that we ended up having in English, I found, are very classic. Now that's classic to me. That doesn't mean that they're classic to Japan either. So it's really interesting also then, because it's like what's classic in its cross-cultural communication to Western audiences is very different from what they're going to take away as popular in theirs, and what they're going to take from our culture to make into cross-culturally communicative in Japan as well. Because I do find that, or at least what Attack on Titan keeps reminding me of, is they are taking a lot of themes of zombie and Western zombie especially, like genre into the anime. So it's interesting to see the evolution that has happened, because Sailor Moon's 25 years old. The anime is about 25 years old. I think the manga is 30 now, and the anime is about 24, 25. So like it's going to change, but it's really interesting listening to the discussion of like, what is classic anime and like what's definitive anime, because there's a lot more options than there used to be. Especially as a Western audience, we can now stream a lot of these options. So how does that change our perception of it? We don't get everything, obviously, but like, if you challenged me to actually ask what I've watched recently, I've watched too much to name a lot of anime. There's obviously a few that stick out, but also they stick out differently for me than they do for Dallas. He likes some of the anime where I'm like, yeah, it was good, but it's not as good as like how you like it. So like, that's not a bad thing either, because that means that it is a little bit more inclusive, maybe. Like, there are more shows, so more people can like it. Anime used to be extremely kind of it's hard to describe, because it's like, it used to be very cult, I guess, camp. It only really appealed to a certain audience. There we go. And now I feel like the audience is expanding a little bit more. It's more of, there's something for everyone, without it feeling like it's anime either. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Anyway, I did not mean to go into a whole diatribe of that. We are currently watching Attack on Titan. I am going through and watching My Hero Academia in the time that I want to give it. I'm still playing Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep as well, because I need to finish that. But I'm stuck getting one sticker for my album. I gotta get these stickers so that I get the special end. And also I need to level up a bit, because the final boss is kicking my ass, but because you know, this is how it goes. And then we're also watching, in the new season, we are watching still Demon Slayer, which is really good. I'm really enjoying that one. I'm really enjoying the evolution of the characters. The art style is friggin' amazing. That's probably what I'm enjoying most about that, because it's very distinct for the art style. And it's got a good story. So it's sometimes rare to find those two in conjunction. Although I do find that anime does that generally very well. And then what else are we watching? That's, oh, the Fruits Basket remake. And then, which I didn't even know they were doing, but thank you, Leah. She's the crafty colon. She said that they were remaking it. So I was like, we gotta watch that. And I'm loving it. So it's just like a nice wholesome anime. I think those are the main ones right now. There's a couple others I want to go back to and continue, but just haven't gotten there yet. So enough rambling about my entertainment. Let's actually get into like a preview of these products that I keep teasing you about and promising that they're going to happen. And they have, finally. So last week I had the small Glenda clutchy messenger sort of bags. Actually, I don't know if they're going to be called Glenda. I gotta figure out a name for them. They are small messenger clutchy things with a strap. This week, it's hobo bags. Look at that. So, head comparison again. It's 1.5 heads deep and 3 heads across. 3.5. Quite generous. This one, they will all have crossbody or extendable straps at least. They are zippered. They have 2 zip pockets on the front. Not all pockets will have this curved zipper. They will sometimes have like straight zippers, depending on my mood for the day, basically. And then they are lined, fully finished, same as all my other bags. And finished so you have no raw seams, and then there is a slip pocket in here as well, quite large and generous, so that you can put your stuff in. It's a nice shape, it's a good size, it's not too big and not too small, I find, and it's really good for a lot of my bigger fabrics like this. So also Bat Cat, this is in the style of like the Sassy Cat fabrics. And I totally think of Sassy Cat when I look at all of them except this one. This one reminds me of Remy, mostly because it's a fat cat. And he's got a little bit of chunk. So it's Chunk Cat. And then I will try to do a little bit more fussy cuts so that you end up with like stuff on the tabs that's attractive. Obviously I kind of failed there, but you got at least one cat face on one side. These bags are going to be a combo of actual Japanese fabrics, and then a canvas or vinyl for now, gusset, just for a little bit of contrast. These ones like this will be machine washable, cool, but these ones that actually have the vinyl will not be, but they still look fantastic and I love it. Now some of them will have this twirly clasp, and these ones will be crossbody then. This one is actually made from a secondhand obi that I picked up when I was in Japan, paired with upholstery vinyl. It's got the pockets again, and I really love the gusset on the top as well. Obviously there's a bunch of thread to be cut. These are done sewing, but that doesn't mean they're done production. Lined with white, and the same thing, slip pockets as well. Yeah, I especially like how this is going to show up. You can still see the creases actually from the actual obi, which is kind of cool, where it was folded. So these are the new products. Now these are not all of them that will be available on Friday, but it's a representation of the style of what I'm offering. So it's going, for now, it's going to be these 2 shapes and sizes for the purses. That doesn't mean that I will not add more in future, but it does mean that this is what's going to kind of be in production this summer. I'm really like them. I'm really actually quite pleased with how they're turning out, which is always nice. Because sometimes I go into these and I make it and I'm all gung-ho and they don't quite turn out like I like or want, and sometimes they aren't quite there, but I am really enjoying these. So there are hobo bags now and messenger clutch bags, and I'm super excited, and I hope you guys love them as well as much as I do. They are going to be some very distinct pieces, and there are more distinct pieces coming from the obi fabric as well, so I'm super excited for that. Yeah, and I hope you guys all have a fantastic week. I hope to see you at Inglewood Night Market on Friday, and if not, these will be going online post TNNA at this point because they need to have a little bit different of a photo shoot setup. So yeah, they'll be available early July, I think. That's probably going to be the best timeline on them. I will show you them on the podcast as we go, so if there's any of the fabrics that you really want, let me know and I will set it aside for you. But yeah, in the meantime, I hope you guys all have a fantastic week. I will chat with you next Friday. I'll be back on normal schedule now for the next couple weeks. Well, this week and next week, and then I'll figure out what I'm doing for TNNA. And I hope you guys have good weather, and I'll see you soon. Have a fantastic day. Bye.